All right, well, I'm going to start out this video talking about the crown seat appointment. So this is when you've done the work on the tooth, taken an impression, you send it to the lab, you get back from the lab this gorgeous tooth. And I hope that when you see this tooth and you try it on, you get this type of an experience afterwards.
Yeah! That was legitness.
Yeah, it was. Ha.
That was legitness.
Yeah.
That was legitness.
Yeah, it was.
That was legitness.
Yeah, it was.
Awesome. So I hope that we all think that that's legitness. And if you ever hear me say legitness, that's what I'm thinking of when it happens. So anyway, so let's go to a legit crown seating appointment. So the items that you're going to need as a patient experience specialist before the dentist comes in is that you'll need to make sure that the crown is there. During the morning huddle, we need to make sure that the crown is back from the appointment. And one thing I failed to mention on the crown preparation day is when you write down those on the lab script, for the crown to come back and you tell the lab, we need the crown back by X date. You want to make sure that the date you write down is the day before the patient is actually going to be coming back. That way, if they're coming at 7 a.m. or whatever, that we have it back ready to go. There's only really a few things that you need for the crown seating appointment. You'll need a mirror, the dental mirror. You'll need an explorer to clean off some of the cement, some floss to make sure everything's clean. And you'll need hemostats to make sure that you can take off the temporary crown that was put on. Sometimes you may need a spoon or a scaler for really cleaning off hard cement if that's needed. And then you also need articulating paper. And then sometimes if it's a front crown, one that's going to go on a front tooth, you want to make sure that you have a patient mirror, one of the bigger mirrors, like a makeup mirror or something like that, so that the patient can see that and make sure that they like the tooth before you cement it on there. Then you'll need the type of cement that you'll need it for the crown, which usually it's only one type of cement that we have, but if you're going to do an Emax crown, then we need a resin-based cement that we're going to be using for that. This is something, once again, you can ask during the morning huddle. And then you'll also need an x-ray sensor to take an x-ray, especially if it's a back tooth. You need to make sure that where we can't see, which is we can't really see in between teeth, we need an x-ray to show us if that crown is fitting perfectly during that. So one of the things that you're going to try and discuss with the patient is today that you're going to get your permanent crown. And so if you seat the patient, you've already talked about Billy's basketball game or Mickey Mouse Jr.'s debut movie that he was in. Once you've gone through all that, you need to make sure that you tell the patient, hey, so our plan today is to be able to put your permanent tooth crown, your permanent tooth crown, put your permanent crown on. And then 99 times out of 100, we usually don't have to numb anybody up. But we want to make sure that you're comfortable. But usually we don't have to numb you, and that kind of saves you a shot. But if it's bad enough that you want a shot, let us know, because we still want to be friends when we're done. And I use that comment a lot when I'm with patients so that they know that we're not here to just drill on their teeth and send them out the door. We really, truly want to make friendships and make sure that we're friends with people. Me as a people pleaser, I really want to try and make sure that we create a positive atmosphere rather than, oh, this tooth is way more important than you. We always need to remember that there's a human being stuck to the teeth that we're working on. Anyway, so once again, and if it's a front tooth, always just tell the patient, so we've got your front tooth back, and don't worry, we're going to make sure that you love it before we cement it permanently. We're not going to just put it on there and say, hey, have fun. We want to make sure that if it doesn't look quite right, we send it back to the lab, we make the necessary changes, and then we put it back, which brings up a good point that if the permanent crown comes in and it doesn't fit quite right, we want to make sure that we save the temporary crown so we can just put it back on instead of having to make a new one, if we can. So, removing the temporary. Removing the temporary is pretty easy. We just take the hemostats or grab onto it, and we just do a little bit of a wiggle. We kind of loosen the cement, and then it usually comes off pretty easily. Sometimes during the temporary phase, it comes off a lot. Sometimes you might use permanent cement and then drill it off. If we ever usually have to drill off a temporary because we had to put it on there really strong, then we'll probably want to numb them up. But most of the time, they stay on. It's not a big deal. They come in, you don't numb them up, and you just wiggle it off. Sometimes you might be able to do it as a patient experience specialist once you've gotten used to taking off temporaries and you've kind of gone through that. Then you may be the one taking them off. But most of the time, the dentist will take it off. They'll use a mirror and explorer to kind of clean off the cement and then make sure everything's cleaned off of the preparation and what the tooth looks like, because even the slightest bit of cement can make sure that that crown doesn't fit quite right. And then most likely they'll need a little bit of a rinse before they start putting the permanent crown on. Once you take it off, if a tooth has had a root canal underneath that crown, that tooth will not have any sensation at all because the nerve is gone. But if it hasn't had a root canal on it, then that tooth is usually going to be pretty sensitive. So if you ever squirt water in a patient's mouth where they've taken, when you're going to be doing a crown seat, you usually want to squirt it on the opposite side of where that tooth is. Let their mouth kind of warm up the water and then swish it over the top. If we put the cold water right on there, you probably won't ever do it again. Nor do we want to blow a bunch of cold air on that too, because that will not feel very good. So then the kind of dentist kind of will take over at this point. And once you get your expanded functions, your expanded patient experience, specialist duties performed and certified, then you can start trying on the permanent crown. But most of the time, the dentist will try on the permanent crown, see how it fits, look at the margin, which is the junction between the crown and the tooth, make sure that looks really good. And then at that point, they may start checking the bite, checking x-rays, making adjustments, but usually we always want to make sure that we have a handpiece available, so that way, which I don't add that in here, but let's go ahead and we'll add making sure that the handpiece is available just in case they need it here. And you will make sure that they just have the handpiece and a restorative block available. And once they've gotten that all adjusted, and we always ask the patient, how does it feel? How does it make, does it make you feel good? Because crowns should always make you feel fantastic, right? So then once you've got that in there, then if everything feels good, then you go to cement it. When we go to cement the crown, everything is perfectly dry. And then you're going to be the one to be able to mix the cement. You'll hand the crown to the dentist in your hand. So you'll mix the cement, you put the cement in the crown, and you hand the crown to the dentist, and the dentist will pick it up from you. If you are the one holding it like this, you take it to him, and then he has to put it in his hand, and then he has to grab it. So it just saves a step. If you hold it out there and he grabs it, and then he'll put it in. And then one thing that you really want to try and mention to the patient, if the dentist doesn't, is that they want to wait for about 30 minutes to eat. It takes about 30 minutes for the cement to just get really, 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 really rock hard. So that way they can start eating. Drinking's fine, hot and cold is fine, but you want to make sure that they know that before they leave. They need to wait a little bit of time before they start eating. You just don't want to just go jump at eating right away. And then once again, at the very end of the appointment, make sure that we schedule for them to come back, whether that be a cleaning or they have a filling that needs to be done or another crown that needs to be done. Oftentimes, if patients have a fillings and they have crowns need to be done, we usually try to combine those into those appointments. So oftentimes we will see the crown and do some other treatment on that day, but sometimes not. But just make sure that before the patient leaves, you stop the dentist, you stop the patient, and just kind of stand. I mean, you don't want to make a huge scene, right? But you just kind of want to stand in front of the patient and say, all right, doc, is there anything else that we need? And are they just coming back for cleaning or coming back for anything else? And then you can make sure that they are scheduled for the next appointment properly. And usually they love their new tooth. It's a good experience to have them go from a temporary to a permanent crown.